Let's bring in Lauren Rhodes. She is a university editor of the Daily Tar Heel, the student newspaper at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that we were just getting images from. Can you paint us a picture of what's happening on your campus there?
Hi, thank you for having me. Yesterday, we had police enter our campus. About 2 days previously, students who had created an encampment put the poles back in their tents, which directly violated university policy. And we were expecting police force to come in Sunday night or maybe Monday, but it wasn't until Tuesday morning at around 6 a.m. police presence came in. They detained protesters and they removed all the tents from the encampment. And then that afternoon, there was a silent vigil that quickly escalated after protesters knocked down barricades that had been set up around the campus. And then the police came in and pepper sprayed the crowd and detained some of the protesters.
And how long was it before police moved in from when they started staging, do you think?
It was actually about an hour. We were a little surprised. We were waiting for the police to come in earlier. But the barricades came down. Protesters went to a flagpole that's right in the center of our quad, and they took down the American flag and put up the Palestinian flag. And they were rallying around there for about 30 minutes before police came in.
I got to ask about the vibe on campus. So those that are not involved in the protests, what's the general reaction to a student that may be kind of like apathetic about the protests that are happening right now? Or is there no one that's apathetic and everybody's engaged? What's the situation?
These protests have been going on for months on our campus. These students, especially the students at the UNC chapter of SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine, have been advocating for the same demands since October 28th. So it's hard-pressed to find a student who doesn't understand that these protests are happening. And this quad is right dead center in the middle of our campus. It is where most students cross to go to class, and it is where most students sit to study and talk in the afternoon. So I would be surprised if someone didn't realize these protests were happening. I think that it was interesting because this happened on our last day of classes, and you could hear music from frat parties happening during the silent vigil and during the protests. And you had this like strange dichotomy of protesters, counter-protesters, bystanders, and then people who were a few streets over partying and celebrating the last day of classes. It's a very interesting vibe, especially considering that UNC's had a tough year because we started our year with the fatal campus shooting. So I think a lot of students are just tired and emotional.
And Lauren, last day of class, basically the campus is going to start shutting down, right? Do you think that these protests are going to continue, or does this take a lot of the wind out of what we've been seeing there?
So the protesters actually said they would not be coming back to that quad called Polk Place because of the heavy police presence. We were reporting that police were bringing in riot gear, shields, batons, armored cars from neighboring counties. And protesters said they weren't coming back because of the huge police presence. There was a small union rally this afternoon, but we haven't seen another protests really happen so far. They've also set up 3 sets of fences, going from barricades to about 6-foot-tall fences to about 8-foot-tall fences surrounding the flagpole, which is supposed to act as a deterrent to student protesters.
Lauren Rhodes, really appreciate your reporting. Thank you so very much for this insight, and please stay safe.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.